feeling numb. Seeing you in empty spaces, silence screaming that you're gone. Left up going on, but you promised to love. Battling your lies with my heart and my soul, breaking me down into pieces I've done for you. And now I can get you out of me. Darkness, there's a picture of me. And if I look back, look in memory.
Hello, everyone, to the
Hello.
5 early birds watching. I guess that's just us. Let's just wait till 1 o'clock till more people join.
You worry about me, I can't carry myself home, cause I got it on my own. You worry about me, I won't let you take me home, leave your number on my phone. I'm sorry about me, I can be a bit complicated. So don't worry about me, I'm a little intoxicated. About me, I can't carry myself home, cause I got it on my own. So don't want you to reply on me. I want that you take me home. Leave your number on my phone. I'm sorry about me. I can be really complicated.
Hello, everyone. Um, for those who are on time, thanks a lot. Let's give a couple of minutes for more people to join, maybe 2 to 3 minutes, and we'll get started. In the meantime, if you're here, you can just scan this QR code. There's a quick survey. If you can do it, that will be awesome. I promise you it's only going to take you 30 seconds. There are only 2 questions. All right. I think let's get started. A warm welcome to all of our Alephians from across the regions. And if you're not from Aleph, welcome to you. Please subscribe and like the channel. We do these academy sessions twice a month. This session is happening on Wednesday, and at the last Friday of the month, we have one as well. So today we have two of our mobile engineers presenting on pull request reviews. And we'll get started. Over to you, Wu.
Yeah, thank you, Janaka. So, so today I have Bhuvan with me. Myself, people call me Wu. I'm a mobile engineer specialized in Android development. So, Bhuvan, you can introduce yourself.
You're on mute,
Muted.
Bhuvan.
Yeah. Hi everyone. My name is Bhuvan, and I do work as mobile engineer. Yeah.
Yeah. So, how long have we been working together? I think more than a year.
Yeah. Close to
Yeah.
a year.
I gotta say that pull request review is one of our favorite activity together. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, just gonna flash this QR code again. It'd be nice if you can take the survey. Just want to know more about the audience. Okay. So just gonna briefly go through what are the values of pull requests. I mean, there are a lot of values of doing so. To people who are not familiar with pull requests, basically you can see it as a ceremony or an event to notify when you have made a contributions. You make a request to the maintainers or the owner of the repository that, hey, please take a look, and there's this code change that I hope that you can take it. So the value of doing so is actually it's important when you try to develop something in a collaborative settings, which means you are not the only one to contribute. It could be a large group of people. So when you do so, there's something you can enforce is maybe it helps you to ensure certain qualities. So to us, software projects usually there are a set of qualities that we want to uphold in the projects related to code itself. And then another thing is to balance, because when you work in a collaborative settings, there are many opinions, and usually there are 1,000 ways or 100 ways of doing certain things. So there's a need for a platform for people to balance around opinions. So I think that's one value when you involve yourself in the pull request review. And then secondly, I think that I can relate or resonate a lot is whenever I'm involved in pull requests, there's always something to learn, right? And it's important to learn because, again, when you're in the collaborative setting, it's really important to align yourself with your fellow contributors so that you're aligned on certain things. All right. However, pull requests, I wouldn't say it's a double-edged sword, but just remember when you're involved in a check or anything to review, it's actually a stopper for the contribution to progress further, because you'll be putting a pause just to really look at the code changes. And the pitfall that also happens to our team is certain pull requests or many pull requests tend to take a long time before we can get approval or even to receive its fate, because certain pull requests might be declined. Yep. So when it's prolonged, it kind of like halts the entire process of the value streams. So this one common pitfall when you involve yourself in the pull request. And one thing I want to highlight today is pull request review is very much a social activity. I mean, there are a lot of human aspects in play, because most of the time, and I think 100% of the time, the reviewer themselves are human beings, and yourself are human beings. So with that, let's say that there are some virtues that are very important to follow or practice when you're involved in pull requests. So one thing is to be punctual. So try to respect other people's time. When you're on time and everyone's on time, it actually saves a lot of time. So it's just as simple as that. It goes a long way with that. And another thing is, again, human has cognitive limitations. We have wonderful brains, but our brains is a system that get tired, or without certain knowledge, it's hard to understand something. So author might have to bear in mind that we have to try our best, put an effort to make the pull request review process as easy as possible to follow and to understand. And there's one thing that we do together with Bhuvan frequently. That is this activity we coin it as walkthrough. The reason is ever since we moved into work from home, environment, what we have observed is we have a lot of pull requests, which is a good thing because we are making contribution. But the pull request has been around, could have been around for very long, because I think maybe something we're missing when we're not working together. We are less aware of there are some pull requests waiting for reviews, because I think in the past when we are together, we can just nudge someone and say, hey, across the table and say, hey, please review my PR, things like that. So maybe those stuff that are missing, and then we came about with this walkthrough. So why a walkthrough? A walkthrough will ensure that we make a contract that or put in effort to schedule a time where we can go through a PR. And that's just the beginning. And we believe that during walkthrough, there are certain set of events that we can make sure it happens synchronously with everyone together. So to avoid more waiting time, if those stuff are done like offline or on everyone's own time, so that we believe can make a breakthrough by cutting down all this waiting time. So when we do walkthrough, we have kind of laid out some guidelines. Firstly, for the authors. So not just for the walkthrough, but for any PRs, it's always good to start with putting proper title and descriptions. Again, this is to give a good understanding, a heads up to your potential reviewers about what kind of contributions, code changes that you are doing. It's important to understand the purpose of the pull request. And secondly, it's important to size the pull request so that you can give an idea to yourself and to your reviewers like how long it will take. So sizing is about, we prefer to size by the complexity. So it's not so much about how many lines of code changes, it's also about the complexity, because some, from perspective of line of code change, so, it could be very little, but it could be very complex to understand. So we have to factor that in as well. And during the walkthrough, there's no harm. I mean, it's always good to cross-check again with your reviewers whether they understand the objective of the changes. If they are not, most likely it's hard for them to review or to give any constructive feedback. And during the walkthrough, we prefer the author to design the agenda and to drive the conversations. So we prefer not to have like, a very casual or random ways of how it progresses, because again, that will incur maybe more time or yeah. All right. So another thing is again related, just trying to relate to the connective complexity again. So if you go through the code changes in some fashion that's hard to understand, most likely it's going to be hard for the reviewers to understand what's going on. So we propose that author to make an effort to design, to go through the code changes in a logical manner. And then in pull request review is also a good place, or probably is the last chance that you can discuss about certain design decisions. So it's important for author to highlight again what's the design decision that has been made. So again, just trying to relate this to the software design talk that Janaka has shared before. So design is about identifying important decisions, and some decisions will become your architecture that could be hard to change later, or the cost of changing is hard later. Yeah. So it's important to use the last chance to talk about it. And during this walkthrough, we tend not to spend too much time on one topic. So because usually pull request still has to be done offline for certain things, like because there's certain missing information where each party has to find out later. So if you ever find yourself or you find your reviewer engage with you in certain discussion for too long, just advise them to leave a comment so that they can follow up later. So at the end of the walkthrough, again, don't forget about all this human touch. We, just be grateful and say thank you to your reviewers because they spend time, reading our contributions. The pull request review is not like the easy task, right? It definitely incurs brain power to do so. Okay, Janaka, at this moment, do we have any question from the channel?
There is a question, not 100% related, but let's maybe quickly touch on that. So
Yeah.
Terry from the chat wants to know which one is more important, code quality or working software?
Okay, that's a question of balance, I think. I think it depends on the moment, where the stages is. Code quality would ensure the longevity of your software, so I think it's important. But maybe at the moment, you can't take care of it, but there are a lot of techniques how you take care of it later. Yeah, I think it really depends on the timing, and yeah. If you want to go long with the project, code quality cannot be neglected in any case.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's about sustainability of your program.
Yeah.
I think it's probably a topic for another day, but there are different types of technical debt, and as long as you're aware of the type of technical debt you're taking and you have a plan to recover from this, I think you can prioritize accordingly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's proceed. I'll
Okay.
keep posting these questions to you.
All right, thanks. Okay, next, some guidelines for review as well. So reviewer, please spend time to read the description that has been written by the author to just get a good understanding. And during the walkthrough, just reach a consensus to allow the author to drive the pull request. So just believe in the process, right? You'll be allowed to ask your questions. And the format of asking question also, we prefer to raise it at the right moment for just a brief discussion. And always leave a comment so that we can follow up later. Or even though you got the answer on the spot, it's always good to leave a comments and author can leave a reply. So it kind of serves as a record for future reference. Because usually some discussion could be important about your design, so it serves as a record for future reference. And then after the walkthrough, really help ensure that you can dedicate a quality time to go through the pull request review again on your time offline, and then try to review every aspect of the pull request. So it also depends on the nature of the code change. Just give an example, if you're reviewing a contribution to a screen navigations for user stories, so just make sure that all aspects of navigations are reviewed thoroughly. Just try to avoid just leaving one comment and then you go to the author and say, hey, please resolve this. And then maybe in the next 2 hours, you still find something. And then you have to inform the author again. So just try to cut out all this back and forth time. So once you have reviewed every aspect, just maybe it's good to inform the author that you are done reviewing. So it depends on the tools that you use. Maybe you have good notification, but yeah, I mean, no harm to introduce some human touch in the process. And then once the author has addressed your pull request review, so try to follow up as soon as possible so that you can move on and probably give approval to the pull request. All right. All right. So now Bhuvan and I will try to just to demonstrate like how we usually do our pull requests. So Bhuvan, are you ready?
Yes, true.
All right, let me switch to our example. Okay, so Bhuvan, I think you'll be the author and I'll play the role as a reviewer.
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
So
hang on, let me switch it back to the overview. Okay, there you go.
yeah, so as we have seen the rules, the first thing is make sure the title and the description you provide for your PR are meaningful, and elaborate the work you have done as part of that PR in the description, so that when the reviewer is going to review, he can understand what he is going to review and what is the work that has been done as part of that PR. So as one of our projects, we thought of adding database to persist the user queries, user history of requests made to a certain things. So for that, what we have decided is permit persist master with database, and the objectives what we are doing as part of this PR is persist bank service as master data, relational database. The schema for the database has been decided, and pre-populating the database with the master data. That's what we have done. That is the work we have done as part of our PR. So yeah, once we have decided on the title and the description, then we raise the PR. Then most of the cases, it's not just one reviewer who will be reviewing. A couple of reviewers will be there, and most of your team members will be reviewing your code. So in order to optimize the time taken for your review sitting in there for the review to happen, what we do actually is, we as an author, I ask my team members for a preferable time where they can like based on the size of the PR. Let's say if I am sizing that PR as M, maybe I'll ask for at least like half an hour time from my team members. Let's decide on the time where I can walk through my PR, what I have done as part of my PR. I can explain them what are the what is the requirement actually, and what's the decision we have taken. So all this I can explain so that the reviewer will have a complete idea of what has been done as part of that PR, and what by letting the requirements clear to the reviewer, it will be easy for them to understand if any logical part is involved in your PR, so that they can understand why that particular logic has been there based on the requirements. So yeah, once as I said, I will request for the time. Once the time has been decided, do not expect every reviewer has the complete knowledge on the requirements. So first, I prefer explaining the requirements clearly to the reviewers. Once the requirements are clear to the reviewers, then they can understand the code better. So yeah, once I tell the reviewers about explain the requirements to the reviewers, then I'll dig into the code and I'll explain what are the changes I have done as part of the code. So yeah, what are the changes in this is, as you can see, the first is banks.json, which is like we have a defined set of banks where we are showing to the user. So it's already defined. So as part of this behavior, I'm trying to fetch that and store it beforehand. Pre-populating the database is what it has been done. And if you see the data folder where we are creating the database, and the schema for the database has been decided. So here, why we are using Room is because the main concept behind this app is to work complete offline. That's why we have preferred storing instead of going through backend services or something. We preferred to store in the Room database. So that's what I can explain to the reviewers, that we have decided Room because of so and so reasons. Then what is the schema? We have a bank stable, we have user stable, something like that. So yeah, so that the reviewers will understand what exactly is going on. Yeah. So who do you want to go through the code?
Yeah, let's go through like, in a logical manner, like, maybe start with dependencies and then followed by
Yes.
the schema. Yeah, let's do it.
So I just want to make sure everyone understands that this code is just an internal hobby project, that it's not any proprietary code that we are writing. This is just a mock review that we are doing.
Yep. Yeah, I think we'll just very quickly go through just to show the gist, or how a PR can be walked through in a logical manner. So yeah, Bhuvan, go ahead.
Yes, as we are introducing persistent database and we chose to use Room, so these are the dependencies we can add.
Mm.
Uh, so these are the dependencies I have added, and here JSON is to parse my JSON and populate the database with whatever the JSON I have.
Yeah.
So and yeah,
So at this point, maybe me myself as a reviewer, I might ask question like, why room, stuff like that. So this might get yourself into a long discussion. So I might just quickly raise a question. If there's any background information that I can find online, maybe I can just do it myself later during an offline review, so that Bhuvan can go on.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah. Can you move to the app
yeah,
database?
that database. Okay.
Yeah, this is where I'm creating my database class and pre-populating the database once the database has been created in on create, where I am fetching, if you see the build database.
Yep.
So can you go into one-time worker request builder? Yes. So this is where I'm passing the JSON from my assets and populating the database with whatever the JSON response I'm getting. So this is why I use JSON to parse the JSON from my assets.
Yep. So again, at this point, when Bhuvan has already explicitly mentioned that in this PR, we have to pre-populate the database. So when he go through this code, I have a better idea like, oh, actually this is meant for, to pre-populate the database. If it wasn't mentioned, I might be scratching here like, what is this for? Because as a reviewer, I might not have all the knowledge to quickly translate this. Actually, this is meant for a certain purpose.
Yes. And in banks DAO, yeah, here I'm providing the methods to insert, delete, or whatever the operations we need as per the requirements. So yeah, here as I said earlier, that we will be showing the available banks to the user in one of the screens. So Get Bank will give the user all the banks available. Yeah. So insert.
Yep. So at this point, for example, some of the questions that reviewer might ask is maybe I can ask why in this DAO, this get bank is returning a live data and why install is using a suspend function. So, I mean, we can spend some time to talk a little about some of the design decision, a very brief one. If it takes longer than that, again, just leave a comment so that we can follow up later. Yep.
So yeah, that's so this is the most about the PR work I have done as part of this PR. So once the review is done, I would like to ask the reviewers to leave their comments so that I can address them once. Yeah, you can go ahead and write a comments.
Why I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Once
So, yeah.
the requirements are clear to the reviewers, then they can clearly review each and every part of our code, and they can leave their comments once you have explained your part. So once the reviewers are done, once the walkthrough is done, then finally I would like to say thank you for the reviewers for taking their time out and reviewing my code.
Yeah. And as a reviewer, I mean, we have to also appreciate the contribution. So, and in return, we should spend a quality time just to review every aspect. And also one thing I want to highlight that when Bhuvan did the walkthrough, it makes it easy to follow when he doesn't just go through the code changes by the sequence of the file. If he, for example, if you just go through this file and then followed by this, and then I might be scratching here like, what's this for? So if you realize he go through by the logical manner, which means first it started with the dependency, then followed by how database is created, and then the pre-populations, and followed by the DAO, how the database is used for. So it's not always a good idea to follow code change. I mean, going through the code changes by the list of files in this sequence because it doesn't string up well. So when author put an effort to go through in a logical manner, it really helps the reviewer to understand and piece everything together. Yep. Yep. Proven anything to add on?
Yeah, that's it as part of my PR as an author.
Yep. Okay, I think that's all we want to demonstrate. So again, PR is a huge topic. So we just want to share that experience, like for example, this walkthrough that kind of help us to synchronize certain things to make sure that we have the best information to review the pull request. So yeah, maybe over to you, Janaka. Like any
And
question?
Yeah.
maybe one more point to add, Wu, like
Yeah.
whenever
Yeah. Sure.
whenever we review any PR,
Hmm.
it's not needed that you need to point out any issues or the improvements and comment only on that. If you find something interesting or if you learn something new, you better do comment on those, which could be encouraging for the author also.
Yeah.
So yeah, be it
Sure.
positive or negative, whatever it is, just comment. Yeah.
Yeah. Correct. So don't forget about the human touch again. Like work from heart. Like we always like to say. Yeah. Pull request is really about humans.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Vu and Bhuvan. There are few questions from YouTube. Um, I also want to quickly say that this is one of the techniques that we started when we went into work from home mode when COVID started.
Right.
Always doing a review with kicking off a review with a walkthrough so that you have good context for the reviewer to give good feedback. And I think it has worked quite well for us. So we are almost on time, but let's spend a couple of extra minutes, if you don't mind, Wu and Bhuvan, answering some questions. So,
Yeah. Sure. Happy to do.
so one of the questions is, should a link to Jira ticket be in the PR? This is a really good question.
Bhuvan, do you want to take it?
Yeah, as part of commits, what we define the rules. Okay, what we follow actually is whenever we commit, we mention that Jira ticket ID as part of all the commits, so that uh, the reviewer can see what's the ticket is explaining, what the ticket is about, and see how we have divided those tasks, and what are the how is the commit pattern we are following. So as our commits are part of our PR, so that obviously reviewer can go to that particular ticket and see what
Yeah.
the work is about.
Yeah. So
Maybe,
we go kind of the extra mile, not just on the PR. Generally, we put the Jira ticket ID on the title of the PR, but also annotating every Git commit with the Jira ID.
yep. So maybe I'll add on to that. I mean, there's an immense benefit because effort has been put into the Jira ticket to describe what it's supposed to do. So again, in the PR, we say that it's important to give the context, like what we are doing for. So we don't want that user stories written for away. So it's good to link it up in your commits, so you get the accurate information actually, so that you don't have to rewrite again.
And you also have the side benefits of, if you have Atlassian products integrated with your Git system, you can automate the tickets moving. So you can do a lot of fancy stuff with that. So
Yeah.
let's quickly move on. Can we put checks about the size of PRs? The reviewer might struggle if there are a lot of changes in the PR. So I think this is a really good question too. How do you control like large pull requests coming in?
Yeah, I guess maybe I'll answer first. I don't think there's a hard rule to that or a checker that ensure that, but I think it's just good to follow because remember there's connective limitation again. So just try our best. I mean, it also takes time because it really depends on your project. When you just started, it's really hard to predict what kind of changes would come in. But as it progresses, just try to put in effort to define the function of change. Right? Let's keep it like, for example, some people tend to split component development in one user story, so you can create a PR just to focus on component. So we first have to know the pathway of development. Then, if you put in effort, then I think it would help you to scope the PR size.
Mm.
Yeah.
And to add on to that, another kind of tip we use is to even if you are working on a large chunk of work, but what we would advise is maybe raise a draft first, just with method stubs or just interfaces, so that you get some early feedback to see whether they are in the right direction before you submit a large change.
Yeah, that works pretty well for us because, yeah, I mean, we prefer to review from time to time. So if things can be split out, I think it helps.
So another question from project management angle.
Hmm.
How much time should be allocated for reviews in a sprint? And where does let's combine two questions. And where does pull request reviews sit in the chain, in the value chain, in the
Hmm.
development workflow?
I'm not sure how much time we spend, but I can't really give a good answer, like exactly the absolute number. But it tends to take up a lot of time for if it involve a large group of people or a large code changes. Yeah, and I didn't quite get the second question where it sits in the
So where does PR sit in a development workflow?
The logic is maybe quite simple. If you have to close your sprint, all your tickets has to be moved to done. So all your tickets has to be moved to done means all your tickets has to be reviewed and merged. So it all depends on how much amount of work you are taking as part of that sprint, and how well you are reviewing your code, how well you are reviewing your PRs. So there is no specific amount of time that you need to spend on the PRs itself or something like that. So plan your sprint accordingly and take the amount of work accordingly so that you can the quality of your work done in that particular sprint will be good.
Yeah. So this is, I think, a good question. Also, at what, in which circumstances, scenarios that we should or must close the branch after PR is merged? So I think this is a quick and easy answer. My opinion is that whenever you merge a branch, there is no reason to keep that branch alive anymore. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I tend to just delete my branch once it's merged.
So I think it's really important to keep your remote clean. What you choose to do on your local machine is, I guess, everyone is individual business, but the remote should be always clean to only active work that is being developed. So let's quickly move on. And I think this is a important question problem that we face every day. We are on the verge of a deadline, but our pull requests are not approved yet. What can we do?
Okay, maybe, oh, Bhuvan, want to go first? Yeah.
Yeah, the pull requests are not reviewed because there is no enough time for the reviewers. So that's why we to optimize the time and make sure you concentrate on different things. That's why we go ahead as an author. We go ahead and ask for the reviewers to allocate some time. We should come to an understanding when we can review, when we can participate on a walkthrough of my PR. So that's how we can optimize the time taking for the PR sitting there for the review. And maybe if it is the last day of the sprint and there are more PR sitting there, then I don't know where the problem.
Yeah.
As an author, it's our responsibility to make sure that our PR gets merged. So it's at the same time we need to ask the reviewers for their time, and instead of asking everyone and explaining them everyone at different point of times, uh, ask them for a combined time and where we can sit together and have a walkthrough and close the PR as early as possible.
Yeah. So I think this is a very, very common scenario for most of us. What really, I think what really needs to happen is you need to factor this in as part of your development time. Very often we only tend to think about writing code as development time, and you tend to estimate your work during backlog grooming. You don't think about how much time it takes to review your work, how much time it takes to test your work. So you really need to start factoring these things when you estimate your tickets, and keep these things upfront, and make it known that it's not just about writing code. It needs to get reviewed by other people. So if you factor those things in and everyone's on board, I think people will start to understand the amount of time it takes to review a PR. So I can see on the chat there are a lot of questions on this area. Any quick advice? Maybe one thing you want to say, Wu? I think a lot of people have the same question.
About closing PR on the deadline,
Yeah,
I think there are many factors that stops the PR from merging. Maybe one thing is some PR might be in a heated discussion about how things should be done. And in that case, I mean, I think we have to take that discussion out. If that PR is mainly for certain user stories, right, just take that responsibility out and then move on with, I mean, just create another task to track that. Yeah, that's one way to give a closure to a PR that's supposed to do when it branch out to another discussion.
yeah. So yeah, I think that's something to track for your team as well. That's some of the metrics that we started tracking about the pull request statistics, how much it sits open, how many comments are being done, when does it get open and closed during a sprint. So these things, if you track, you can identify. I think something Jerry has pointed out in the chat. A lot of pull requests start to get open at the end of the sprint. So I think that's a problem that the team needs to address maybe in a retrospective session. So I'm being conscious of time. Really, we have already extended by 10 minutes. And I thank everyone to hanging around with us and continuously posting the questions. But let's close for the day. Wu, I will give to you if you have any closing statements.
Oh, I think, yeah, pull request is a broad topic. I think, Janaka, maybe in the future we can see more talks about this one. Yes, because today we were just sharing like our experience. Yes, I walked through with something that worked for us, but it might not work for some teams because we might be in a different circumstance. Yeah, but it's an interesting topic. So hope to see more topics. Hope see more talks by other speakers in the future.
Absolutely. Once again, from the Academy team, William, Emily, Mia, and Angela and myself, thanks a lot, Wu and Bhuvan, to putting together this talk. I know you guys are very busy with your work. So I really appreciate your time coming on here and sharing this with us. And I really, I do agree pull request is reviews, code reviews is a very broad topic, and we should be talking about this in time to come. So thanks
Yeah,
again. I thank everyone on YouTube for joining us. So stay tuned for our next sessions. As I said, this happens every middle Wednesday of the month, and we have another session that happens every last Friday of the month, every month. So do subscribe to the channel. Yeah, and thanks a lot for joining us.
yeah. Thank you for having me, having us. Yep. See you guys again.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. We didn't manage to show the survey response.